if you happen to be a viewer of my DeviantArt page, link is going to be in the description. You may have noticed that I haven't uploaded any images in a while because I've experienced, what would you call it? It's not writer's block, artist's block, modeler's block maybe. Well, it's not because I can't come up with an idea, it's because I have too many. Over the course of the last, what has it been, like 4 months or something like that? Almost, since I uploaded last on my DeviantArt, I've had numerous ideas. The ones that had promise, I decided to collect them here. Obviously not the Galaxy class. Obviously I didn't design that. It's just there for comparison purposes. I just whipped up a reasonable Galaxy class model to look at, so I can, compare and contrast. I decided to put most of these ships in the Picard era because I want a Picard Season 3 looking ship. I know I want one. So I adapted a few designs that I had to maybe match into that design language. I labeled them here. One of them is an offshoot of the Dauntless, which could obviously appear in Picard Season 3, but not really. But 1, 2, 3, and 4 definitely could be something that you would see in Picard Season 3. I don't love the design of the starships in Picard Season 3, but that's not important. I accept them as canon, and I'm willing to work within canon. I respect that. So, in terms of nacelle design, and less obvious things like the way that starships from Picard Season 3 combine curves and angles together, it's not totally curvy, and it's not totally angular. It's somewhere in between, with a nod to what came before, as in what came before in the 23rd century. By the admission of the creators of the third season of Picard. It feels to me like it's almost a different show. Like when you say Picard Season 3, you're just talking about a different show, honestly, from the first 2 seasons. If you've seen it, you know why. This video is obviously geared towards people a little bit more experienced. If you're watching this video, you're probably not just a general user of this channel. You may be more in line with my thinking here with regards to starship design. This is where I come from. This is my home base. This is where I spend most of my time, really. This is the starship lineup. This is the ships I was coming up with kind of on the fly. You can see some of them a little bit are more detailed than others, but these are only vague examples of what the general configuration will be like. Nothing here is nearly as detailed as it needs to be to go to the final image. If you're familiar with my work on DeviantArt, and some of them are, like I said, some of them are more along. They've gone more down the road design-wise because I just work on things as it strikes me. That's really it. I go where my heart will take me, and this is the starship lineup. And with that out of the way, let's look at these ships in detail. And these are labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you're in the comments and you want to actually help me with this and decide which one is best and which one I should go forward with, this video, this Mark's Design Room, is to help me get over my modeler's block. Which one is the best one? Which one should be continued? They're easily labeled, and let's get into a more detailed view, shall we? Here we are. The starship lineup. Number 1. Let's get rid of Galaxy class. We don't need it. It was only here to help me for scale. I'll move it to another layer. Bye-bye. Oh my god, what's this thing? What's that? Well, let's move that to the other layer too. So don't need to worry about it. Let's move these this way. Line them up. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's look at this one. This is my Dauntless derived ship. We know from Prodigy, if we take that to be canon, that the Federation is okay with employing the Dauntless design. Here it is singled out. Look at this. Thoughts I had on a smaller Dauntless. Now we know that the Dauntless as it appeared in Voyager was actually tiny. So I went even more tiny. And I tried to get rid of as much of the secondary hull as I could. I like a tiny ship. I'm not into these enormous ships. I begrudgingly create enormous ships when I have to for some canon reason. But here she be. You can see it has that cut in deflector dish into this, I don't know what you call it, this bump underneath the oddly curved primary hull. I believe this is a Rick Sternbach idea, this ship. I think it was Rick Sternbach. He said he wanted the ship to look like it was fast, and this looks very fast. Correct me if I'm wrong on the designer. It's been a while since I read up on it. But this is based closely on what was seen as the Dauntless appeared in Voyager, with some tweaks that I saw from Prodigy. I was always a Dauntless guy. I know some people are going to think it's ugly, but I'm a Dauntless guy. I don't mind it. I think it looks very futuristic. I think what we've seen, though, from the actual future of Star Trek has kind of eliminated the possibility of this design language. Like the avenue that we could have gone down where everything looked like the Dauntless is kind of gone now. Like we've seen Picard and we've seen beyond that. And the whole Dauntless design lineage seems to kind of be a dead end. That sucks. I mean, if you know its dubious origins, it's not that strange. But I always kind of liked it. There's something about this oddly curved, one side convex, one side concave saucer, quote-unquote, section that really appealed to me in a very odd way. It's a strange use of space, but anytime in Star Trek we have a strange use of space or a strange use of, like, negative volume, like holes cut into things, we can always explain it away by changing our warp profile. Or in this case, maybe we needed it for the quantum slipstream drive. I don't know. But one would assume this has quantum slipstream drive. I believe this has... I'm just going to go ahead and guess. I mean, I plan all these ships out. I plan the deck structure. First off, when you design a ship, number one, what's its function? Number two, decks. Get the decks right. If the decks are wrong, it's going to show in the final product. The human eye will notice it, right? And it won't stand the test of time. So I do try to think of these decks. In my mind, I use the Andrew Probert idea. You maybe heard me say this already if you've seen this series from me. I consider a deck to be 12 feet. That includes the livable space as well as instrumentation, piping, ductwork, and then plating. All told, you're getting a 12-foot space for a deck to occur in. So if we look at this, and I plan this all out, this is smaller than lengthwise than what we saw with the Dauntless in Voyager, but the saucer is changed up a little bit. In this configuration, we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 decks, give or take one. Sometimes ships will have extra space in there that's not possible to be occupied. I'm sure you can understand. But that's what we have so far with this Dauntless-derived design. No names, by the way. I have no idea what it's called. I don't know what its class is. It's clearly not the Dauntless class. And I did change up the nacelles a little bit. You'll notice that the Dauntless, as it appeared in Voyager, had no red Bassard collectors here. And I walked it back a bit, and I brought that into the design. No Bassard collector at the front looks very futuristic, but this isn't as quote-unquote futuristic as the Dauntless now, is it? If you know your Voyager stuff. Here she be. We have escape pods taken right off the Dauntless design, as I saw it. Bridge module right here. Shuttle bay cut in to the aft area of the upper saucer section directly below the bridge. I think that's kind of cool. Instead of having the two impulse engine sections here and here, I brought it to the back, again to be a little different. Nacelle pylons. Sensor dome on this, what would you call it? The secondary hull? Is this section the secondary hull? I have no idea. And the nacelles, like design-wise, they are walked back a little bit. What you saw in the Dauntless and Voyager, these were curved, these grill lines, and there's a different kind of, a concave design to the back of these nacelles. It's hard to notice unless you look closely. I did, and I kind of got rid of it. I didn't really like it. But what you like isn't always most important. What is working in canon is important. But number one, the ship should be good, as in functional, its form following its function, and it making sense, and the size making sense. That's a very important thing. It's important to me, so let's continue that trend. That out of the way. What do you think of this thing? Ship number 4, I believe. This is a personnel transport. That's right. And you'll notice this same bridge module across all ships coming up next. This bridge module is just a placeholder bridge module. There's nothing significant about it. That's not how it's supposed to look finalized. It is just the same bridge module. Going forward, we have the same bridge module and same exact nacelles to keep the scale. If you're trying to scale a ship, take a part between them that you know is the same, like the lowest common denominator, basically. We know this nacelle is the same across all these. We know this bridge module is the same. Yes, they're placeholders, but this allows us to figure out the scale easily without having to redo it every time. And it helps us stay grounded going forward in the Picard Season 3 style. This is a Picard Season 3 style nacelle, although I think we saw it in Season 2 on the Sagan class, if I'm not mistaken, or something very similar. This ship is safety minded. I had this idea when I was looking at the Defiant, and I imagined, how do we turn this into a super shuttle, like a yacht? And I had designed a quote-unquote yacht before, going my DeviantArt, the USS Bolero. The idea that we're going to have a simple design primary hull with lots of good internal volume. The internal volume here is useful. It's not a strange shape. We're doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 decks here. Just based on what I'm seeing here. Of course, we land. The ship lands on its own. We have landing legs here. Excuse me, this is incomplete, but these legs would come down, you see. And we would come out here. This would unfold, essentially, and you would walk out between the nacelles. Impulse engines. A unique shape that you can't mistake for anything else. This is a configuration that, just based on silhouette, you can tell exactly what it is. And that's important too. But functionality, number one. 2 separate, independent deflector dishes at the front with 1 deflector dish out possibility. We can have 1 out and still have functionality. Safety, right? You're taking people with this. Not necessarily, well, we're all people, but you're taking civilians, I'll say, right? I thought Starfleet ships were all very safe. They are very safe, triple redundant or more. But you need to understand that when you sign on the dotted line, your life is technically not worth as much as that civilian who was taking it on faith that you're not going to get them killed. That's just the sad reality of it. So, given that this is personnel transport and civilian transport, I should have mentioned at the beginning, I thought about safety first here. That's why we have all these phaser strips. We don't have one big phaser strip. We have a lot of little ones. This is so something can go wrong with them, right? And yes, we do have torpedoes here and here. Torpedo bays. Gotta have it. And that's that. This one does catch my eye. I like the length of these nacelles and how it reuses the same nacelles that we've been seeing in Picard Season 3. It's a different application of something we already have. Waste not, want not, right? The same goes for when you're designing starships. Kit bashing is a good thing. It makes things look real. This is actually the first one I designed to go along with my desire for a Picard Season 3 ship. This is a light, long-range science vessel. It's not unlike the Voyager, but this one is not as it's not as curvilinear. This is angular. This is purely in that kind of Picard Season 3 Discovery type thing where we have angles over everything else. We even have a weird amount of impulse engines. You'll notice that as a trope common amongst Picard Season 3 ships. 1, 2, 3. Really? What's that for? I don't know. But sometimes I just take it on faith, right? That there's a reason for these things, and there's a reason the design language going forward in Picard Season 3 looked that way. One long phaser strip here, one here, torpedo bays, jostling both sides of the sensor dome, and another one here. The sensor dome / deflector dish. This is the only reason this is like this, because I saw basically the same thing on the Titan. The perfectly circular, small, receded in, kind of countersunk deflector dish. Had it not been for the Titan, that wouldn't be here. I don't really love it, and like I explained before, what I love is not often the most important thing. Making sense in a given design language and playing within those rules, for me, is important, and we're doing that here. You can see that this actually has a neck. Look closely. You can just barely see it. There it is. There's the neck. Look at that. But it's so small and it's so tucked up inside that to me it just says, we're not sticking our neck out. We're a science vessel. Each one of these is a multi-purpose swappable science module, right? So you can have a science experiment come in on a skid, go into one of these blocks and do its job and get swapped, go back to starbase, swap it out. We have them here at the front, and we have the sensor dome like this, the planetary kind of sensor dish, that illuminated squat sphere that you see on the bottom of saucers, that dome section, not the deflector, not the forward sensor. This is the saucer bottom section, ventral sensor. Taken directly, again, off the Titan. This vague design, by the way, taken just straight off of the Constitution refit, the Excelsior, and I believe we saw something very similar on the Ambassador class. Very retro inspired, but unfortunately that's what we had to go with. Hopefully this looks futuristic enough to not straight be out of 2290, but here it is. Again, science vessel. So we have small dauntless, personnel carrier, science. Now let's get into the fancy ships. Let's get into the fancy level here. I like a good Chevron style saucer ship, and this one's no different. This came out of a desire I had to take the Voyager style chevron shaped saucer, but marry it to a secondary hull that reflected that shape. The secondary hull, as we see it now in the Voyager, the Intrepid class, it looks like it could be from any other ship. It's round, it's squat, it's great, but it doesn't quite line up with the design of the saucer I always found. So I tried to incorporate the design, just the elevations that you would see at this angle, into the secondary hull. And what I arrived with is this kind of pointed secondary hull like this that kind of continues the same curve. And I put the forward navigational dish deflector really far up at the front, and I made it vaguely triangular. So I pushed it forward, and I imagined what it would be like to hold it, like kind of like a paper plane. Like it's narrow at the bottom. It's very fleeting and fast feeling, and it just has its own style, but you can see the family resemblance it has. Okay, so let's look at some orthographic views of this to get this across. Orthographic, orthometric, which is the right one? I don't know. So you can see now how far forward the secondary hull goes. Our shuttle bay, again, a bunch of impulse engines. We got 4 unique impulse engines here. this flat section here and how it combines within the cells, that tells me it just suggests structural strength. You used to see that with the Excelsior and the Ambassador. This idea that there would be like a long, single, hard section that things would be hung off of. It was really visible in the Ambassador, and I wish that design philosophy was still around, and I brought it back here. The aft section here, that our secondary hull and our shuttle base section are all constructed around, this strong spine, incorporates the nacelle pylons, and it goes all the way to the front. I guess it goes all the way through. That says to me strength. That says to me this is hard to break. If we build everything around this, we're going to end up with a structurally sound ship. And in the front, the torpedo bay area is cut right into it, as well as this sensor dome. And at the back, it also holds the aft, dorsal, and ventral phaser arrays, right? If you're designing these things in 3D, a quick idea, a quick rule of thumb here, just pretend you're an enemy. Pretend you're flying around it like this. Pretend I'm looking at this, and I'm a little shuttle, and I'm an enemy shuttle, and I'm trying to shoot at it. Is there any angle I can put this ship at where I'm not in range of a phaser array? All right? So phaser array, phaser array, phaser array, phaser array. Right? And I'm trying to find an angle that doesn't have it. I'm not saying these are all perfect. They're far from done. But that's how I do this. I look around and I try to find a spot where I can shoot. Right? And if I can, that means I should be out, from the design point of view, I should have a phaser array. And this is our, I want to call this like a long-range multi-mission light cruiser. That strikes me as. So yeah. Let's get rid of you. And here's the big boy, which by Galaxy class standards is not that big, but it's big for these ships. This is what I'm going to call a multi-mission heavy cruiser. Okay, so what do you want on these things? Big shuttle bays, aft shuttle bay. Look at this though. Forward shuttle bay. We're taking something that we saw in the Inquiry class. It had like what I thought was a very ugly forward shuttle bay where you normally would have the deflector dish. I took that idea and I made it a little bit more appealing to me. It's got the angular shape, but it's got curves too. So we're in that Picard Season 3 world. You can see kind of similar to what you would see on the Odyssey class. The secondary hull connects into the saucer section through two different quote-unquote neck sections. In this case, I wouldn't call it a neck, but I would call it these two posts that are on either side of this shuttle bay. The science modules that I kind of came up with for the last few ships are present here. One there, one set there, and one set on the other side of this deflector dish. In a circle here. Again, we got that same sensor dome. And this design actually started from the aft. I drew the aft section of this first, and then came up with the rest. And what I have here is this, and you do see this on Picard ships, the nacelle pylons jutting back behind, from the top view, behind the shuttle bay, and then moving forward. And I have to imagine Starfleet does that for some kind of structural strength reason. So I went with it. I just took it on face value and went with that design. Torpedo bays here, phaser array. The four awkwardly placed impulse engines here, they seem like they're at a strange angle. We see that in Picard, so I'm going with it. Not that it should matter if the internals are all straight, then the outlet angle shouldn't be that much of a difference, especially from just this point of view. It's not like one is like this, or they're asymmetrical or anything. So it should be fine. Originally, this had nacelles down here. Originally, this was the other way. But I changed my mind because I consider the Universe class cannon. And that has nacelles above the saucer. So you can kind of look at this and anticipate, okay, how do we get from there to here? How do we get to the Universe class from this? And I always have that inkling in my mind. I design everything as though you should be almost as though you should almost be able to anticipate the ships that come after this. That in this case, the next nearest cannon ship would be the Universe class and the offshoots of that, like the Altair and the Congo. If you know those ships, you don't have to love them. I don't love them at all, but I accept them. Here's our side view, bottom, top. We have the forward natch in the saucer for our deflector. Again, this is an old idea, but was it an old idea when it was stolen off the Akira class? Up for debate. But this has been around for a while. The saucer mounted, natched in deflector dish. It's not a new thing, but we see it on the Universe, so we have to acknowledge it. This thing is large. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I'm going to guess, just based on a glance, 16 decks. This one isn't as far along as some of the other ships where I really have it hammered out. But like I said, deck number, very important. Let's quickly look at... So this one was ship number 1. I'll just give you a moment to look at all these. Ship number 2. Ship number 3. Ship number 4. Ship number 5. Maybe you can pick which one you like best. Maybe I'll even have a poll somewhere in the video somehow. But if you got this far, hopefully you're keen enough on helping me out here to actually say which one's the best. 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Refer to the image I showed at the beginning. This is the Starship lineup. I've got modeler's block, and I don't know what to do about it. A little bonus. I don't know, let's just look at the Galaxy class for a second. Not perfect. Far, far from complete. But it was just to help the shape. It was just to ground me in something, okay? Everything to scale. But what was this? You got to peek at something at the beginning. Something that doesn't quite fit. What is this? Is this the Enterprise I? Is this right before the J? Is this right before the Universe class? Exotic enough? Advanced enough? Is this a big enough arboretum? That window? I guess it depends on who you ask. We are a stone's throw away from the universe class here. What do you think? This one's been in the maybe pile for a while. It's actually a very old design for me. What do you think of the inlaid navigational deflector that features the sensor dome inside the same housing? Is that cool? What do you think? Is it old and busted or new hotness? Let's get a view of these all together. Hopefully this doesn't blow my computer up. Here's a weird view. Sidelong. Whoa! What am I looking at? So that about wraps it up for this episode of Mark's Design Room. Hopefully you came along for the ride. These videos aren't super popular, but they're super fun because this is my favorite thing in the world.